British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has tested positive for COVID-19. Mr. Johnson confirmed the news himself in a video posted on his Twitter. He's the second British leader to contract the disease. Now, earlier this week, Prince Charles was also confirmed to have the new coronavirus. For more, Ollie Barrett joins us from London. Ollie, tell us what Mr. Johnson said about him contracting COVID-19.
Yeah, he says that he started developing mild symptoms over the last 24 hours and was given the advice by the country's, England's Chief Medical Officer, Chris Whitty, to be tested. He was tested by the National Health Service, and those positive test results came back late last night UK time, the confirmation that Boris Johnson has contracted COVID-19. He says he's feeling reasonably well. In that video that he's posted to his social media channels, he certainly looks pretty chipper. He's continuing to work from self-isolation in Downing Street. He has all sorts of video conferencing setups there so he can continue with his job. We do know that if Boris Johnson were to be unwell to the point that he couldn't continue working and leading the government's efforts against the coronavirus outbreak, that it would be Dominic Raab, the Foreign Secretary, who would be the designated minister to step into that role and lead the country while Boris Johnson was out of action. But for now, he says his symptoms are mild. He can continue to work. He is in isolation. One issue around that is that he is engaged to be married. His partner, Carrie Simons, is pregnant, so we don't know their situation, whether they will continue to be living under the same roof or whether she will be going elsewhere. But Boris Johnson insisting that he's in reasonable health despite this positive test.
Ollie, it's quite a reality check when the Prime Minister himself catches COVID-19. How is the UK coping with the outbreak?
Well, I think Boris Johnson will hope that his own example will really bring it home to some people in the country, if there are those people who haven't quite yet grasped the gravity of the situation and the fact that coronavirus can get to any individual anywhere. He is obviously now following government advice and self-isolating. He will hope that that example will be taken up by the British people as well. That said, there's some criticism of the fact that in very recent days Boris Johnson has been in pretty close proximity to other senior officials, the Chancellor Rishi Sunak, the Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty, the Chief Scientific Advisor Sir Patrick Vallance, other MPs in the House of Commons during Prime Minister's questions on Wednesday. So perhaps the Prime Minister wasn't so stringently following his own self-distancing guidelines in the days that have led up to his diagnosis. In terms of how the country more widely is dealing with the outbreak, we won't know for many months exactly what stage we are at right now and how the government has handled it and whether it's handled it correctly. We have seen a spike in deaths over the last 24 hours. We have got huge preparations going into the National Health Service to try and increase capacity for the peak that we still expect to happen in this country over the next couple of weeks or so. As I say, we will not know properly until we get the benefit of hindsight in a few months exactly how this outbreak was handled by the British government and by the British people.
And do stay safe. Ollie Barrett speaking to us from London.